welcome back to Cindy's Library. This is Cindy, and today I am going to talk about what I have read for December 2022. So, I read a fair amount, pretty good reading month, but what did I read? Well, I read Through the Looking Glass and What Alice Found There by Lewis Carroll. This is a continuation of this Mythgard Academy class we've been doing. We're just about finished, so I finished this one up. Oh, I read Jacob T. Marley by R. William Bennett. You've heard of Scrooge, of course. But how did Jacob Marley become the way he is? How did he and Scrooge meet? And how, after his death, did he ever get a chance to help Scrooge with his redemption? All these questions are answered in here, and more questions of a similar nature. Oh, I only read The Christmas Pudding, didn't read the other stories in here, but The Christmas Pudding is adorable. No actual murder, although there is a jewel missing, and it's not just any jewel. It is part of the crown's collection for another country. Got stolen by a prince. And the culprit seems to be headed to a manor in the English countryside at Christmas time. So Poirot follows. He gets to both solve the case and experience a full English Christmas, which is great. Hope to read some of these others another Christmas. Oh, only got a little bit into here, but I did read a few items. A bit of Washington Irving, a bit of Louisa May Alcott, a bit of William John Locke, Hans Christian Andersen. So we'll have to see what I can get through next year. Of course, I read A Christmas Carol, Dickens' classic. It's always so good to reread it every year. I'm doing that for years. And of course, I had to read Letters from Father Christmas by J.R.R. Tolkien. Well, technically this year I listened to it, which is equally good because the narrator is Jacob Jacoby, and he does an excellent job. Let's see. Oh, I read this, Where the Soul Hungers, One Doctor's Journey from Atheism to Faith by Samuel M. Brown. Always inspiring to read stories like this. Well, this one I've actually been working on all year. C.S. Lewis on George MacDonald. He has a not insubstantial preface here, like 20 pages. And then there is a George MacDonald quote he has chosen for every single day of the year. And the great part about this is these quotes are more from his sermons and things like that that are not so well known and so well read. So quite enjoyed this. So there are some good quotes in there. Advent Carol's Countdown, Stories Behind the Most Beloved Music of Christmas by Michael D. Young. And indeed, you have the Christmas Carol here. There's even a QR code that you can scan to get to a YouTube performance of the carol on YouTube. And then he talks about the carol afterwards. Who wrote it, who did the music, where it came from, how it's evolved over the years. So some great things there. Also read 101 Dalmatians. This is a reread, but Adorable as ever. And Christmas really is the perfect time to read this uh, because the dogs don't know it's a church, but they do stop on a church on their way back to London from where the puppies were kidnapped. And it's Christmas Eve, and it is so amazing. And I finally finished reading this, Homespun and Angel Feathers, poems by Darlene Young. And these poems are very much about the messiness and the imperfections of life and how they all end up being perfect anyway, leading us closer to God. So greatly appreciated that. Very different tone, Old Possum's Book of Practical Cats by T.S. Elliot. Yep, these are the ones that the musical Cats is based on, if it is based on anything. Uh, Illustrations by Axel Scheffler. And yep, we get McCavity, who's never there where the crime was, and Mr. Mistopheles, the magical cat. Greatly enjoyed that. Also reread Star Wars Life Day Treasury, Holiday Stories from Galaxy Far, Far Away by George Mann and Cavan Scott. Not quite Christmas, but close enough. Very heartwarming. We've got stories set in the Old Republic, stories that are set during the days of the Empire, stories that are set during the early days of the New Republic. We go to Tatooine and Kashyyyk and Coruscant and all sorts of places for Life Day. I also read Christmas at Thompson Hall and Other Christmas Stories by Anthony Trollope. And let's see. All of these, they have romance in them, which I guess we shouldn't be surprised since it's Anthony Trollope. Except really, well, no, even that one kind of does have romance after a fashion. Interestingly enough, the two generals is actually set during the American Civil War. Might be the Christmas right before the war started, and then through the Civil War through 1863 Christmas. And of course, two brothers, each on his opposite sides, like the same girl. But the main one, Christmas at Thompson Hall. Oh, a man and his wife. Usually she sets the traveling agenda, but in the wintertime he insists on being in the south of France, where it's warmer and decent from his perspective. But this year she wants to go home to Thompson Hall, home of her ancestors, for Christmas. Everyone's begging her to come, and her sister is presenting her new fiance. And let's just say there are complications that arise trying to get back home for Christmas at Thompson Hall. It's very hilarious. It involves mustard. Need I say more? I also finally finished An Early Resurrection, Life in Christ Before You Die, Adam S. Miller. He's an philosopher, member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Great meditation on, well, what it says, having an early resurrection while you're still alive. And finally, Framley Parsonage by Anthony Trollope. I finished this one, and I have a full review which I will link to. But that is what I have managed to read during the month of December. Let's see, did I miss anything? Oh, I also have read Out of the Silent Planets, the first in the C.S. Lewis space trilogy, where our hero Ransom kind of gets kidnapped and taken to the planet Malacandra because the two gentlemen who kidnap him, well, I guess they don't deserve the name gentlemen, two men who kidnap him. They think that's what the Martians want. Yes, Malacandria is really Mars. Little do they know they aren't understanding things at all very well, which Ransom quickly discovers since he's a philologist, an expert at languages, and he learns a lot more about the language and is therefore much better able to understand what is going on there. So, and it's not what you would think. You have to remember this is in the time of H.G.L.'s Journey to the Moon. Journey to the Moon. Anyway, there's one H.G. Wells. Might be Voyage to the Moon. There's one H.G. Wells where they do go to the moon, and it's a scary place full of scary aliens, and that is exactly the type of stereotype that Lewis here is trying to fight against. Instead of empty, cold space, he finds space to be filled with light and life, even if it's not something he can exactly see or hear for the most part. It's much more alive than he thought. And as for the aliens on Malcandra, they actually treat him much better than his two fellow humans do. So, flipping all of that on its head and showing the more medieval perception of the cosmos is what he wanted to do, and I think he succeeds brilliantly, whatever you might think of it as a hard science fiction story. That's not really what he was going for anyway. So, see, I also read Voyage of the Dawn Treader, Silver Chair, The Horse and His Boy may get through The Magician's Nephew before the actual new year. We will see. And beyond that, I also read Nancy and Plum by Betty MacDonald. Children's book from the 50s, starts with Christmas, ends with Christmas, so very appropriate. Betty and Plum are two sisters, maybe 2 years apart, maybe 10 and 8, something like that. They are orphans and live in a horrible orphanage. But they have an uncle. They do know that, but he never does anything for them, as far as they know. Or does he? Anyway, it's their adventures, and it is wonderful what they imagine Christmas should be like, and more. And thankfully, while the lady in charge of the orphanage and her niece are absolutely horrible, there are a few grown-ups in their lives who are much more sympathetic. Their teacher, the librarian, and so thankfully they have that help and support. Let's see, I think that is pretty much it. So, very good reading for December. Hope yours was just as good. You read any of these books? If so, I'd love to hear what you thought about them, or I'd love to hear about how your December reading went. Thank you so much for stopping by here. I truly do appreciate it. So until next time, hope we all stay safe and healthy. And as always, happy reading.